It started the night before, Christmas Eve. The house smelled like cinnamon and smoke. Ethan had been gone all day. I thought he'd stay out until morning. He didn't. The door opened hard. He stumbled in, coat half off, eyes red. "Still awake, Mom?" I didn't answer. I was cleaning the counter. He dropped his keys on the floor. I had a drink, maybe two. "You should relax." "You promised you'd be home for dinner," I said. He laughed. "Dinner? You mean your lecture with food? You said you'd be here." "Yeah, well, plans change." He pulled out a bottle from his coat. "Want some? It'll make you nicer." "No," he smirked. Still boring. He walked to the table, saw the pie. "You made this for me?" "For us." He sat, tore a piece with his hand, and ate. Dry. I didn't react. He pointed at the wrapped gift near the tree. "That mine?" "Yes." "What is it?" "You'll see tomorrow." He took another bite. "You always make it about rules, even now. Still trying to teach me lessons." "Someone has to." He laughed, shaking his head. "You don't quit. I'm 43. Stop acting like I'm 12. "You're acting like it," I said. He slammed the fork down. "There it is. The tone. You always have that tone." I stayed quiet. He stood. "Say it. Say you think I'm a failure." I didn't. "Say it!" His voice cracked. "You're lost," I said. He stared at me. Wrong word. He took a step closer. His breath smelled like whiskey. "You think you're better than me. Always did." "That's not true." "It is." He pointed at me. "You run this house like a judge. You think everything I do needs your approval." "I think you need control of yourself." He laughed without humor. "There you go again. Control. Always control." "Ethan, go upstairs. Sleep." He walked around the table. "Don't tell me what to do. Go." I said don't. He stood in front of me now, his shadow over mine. "You think you can boss me around because Dad isn't here. Enough." He raised his voice. "You never respected me. Not once. You always look at me like I'm one of your charity cases." I whispered, "You're my son." He leaned closer. "No. I'm your project." "Stop." He laughed louder. "You want to fix me? Fix this." Then his hand moved, fast. It wasn't the first time a man had lost control near me, but it was the first time my son did. The sound was quick, the pain sharp. My cheek burned. The cup beside me fell and shattered. For a second he froze. Then he spoke soft, almost casual. "You made me do that." I didn't move. He stepped back, rubbed his face. "You talk too much. You always push. You never listen." I wiped the blood from my lip. He kept going. "Now you'll finally stop." He turned toward the stairs. "Don't stay up waiting. I'm done talking." He climbed halfway, then stopped. "You'll wake up tomorrow and act normal. Got it?" I didn't answer. He pointed down at me. "You stay quiet, you hear me?" I looked up at him. "Go to bed, Ethan." He stared for a second, then laughed again. "Good night, Mom. Merry Christmas." He walked upstairs, each step heavier than the last. The door slammed. The house went silent again. I stayed at the table. The cocoa had spilled across the floor, dark against the tile. The lights on the tree blinked once, then dimmed. I pressed my hand against my cheek. My skin was already swelling. I reached for the towel, wiped the counter clean. The glass pieces clicked under the rag. I looked at the reflection in the window. My face was red on one side, pale on the other. I whispered to myself, "Tomorrow you'll understand." I went to the sink, ran cold water, and let it drip over my hand. I watched the blood mix with the water. I kept my breathing even. The clock hit midnight. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I picked up the towel again and cleaned the floor. The motion kept me steady. When the kitchen was spotless, I sat down at the same chair. I looked at the gift under the tree. The tag read, "To Ethan, from Mom." I took it, turned it over, and slid it into the drawer. "Not yet." The house groaned in the wind. Upstairs, I heard him stumble once, then silence. I stood, turned off the lights, and went to my room. But I didn't lie down. I sat at the desk with Harold's old notebook. I opened the first page. His handwriting filled half of it. Small, straight, calm. He used to write budgets, plans, small notes about the garden. At the bottom of one page, a single line. Never react, record. I read it twice. Then I wrote the date. December 24th. Under it, one line. He hit me under the Christmas lights. But I didn't flinch. I closed the notebook. The mirror beside the desk caught my face. I looked older, colder, but not weak. I touched the bruise once, just enough to know it was real. Then I whispered, "Enough waiting." I walked back to the kitchen, opened the pantry, and pulled out flour, sugar, apples, and butter. The oven clicked on. The smell of heat replaced the smell of whiskey. While the dough mixed, I made a call list in my head. 3 people. 3 who had never failed me. The first, Marion Cole. The second, Sheriff Grant Taylor. The third, Ruth. Not friends, witnesses. The oven beeped. I slid the pie in and waited. The night was quiet again, but different now, heavy with choice. At 2:45 I checked the pie. Almost done. I poured water into the kettle and sat by the table, watching the clock. I thought of Ethan at 5, running around the tree, shouting for toys. I thought of Harold, laughing in this same kitchen. I thought of what they'd say if they saw this version of us. By 3, the pie was ready. I took it out, placed it on the counter, and let it cool. I washed my hands, dried them, and picked up the phone. The first number on the list. The line rang once, twice, then a familiar voice. "Nora?" "Marion," I said. "I need you at breakfast." "Is everything all right?" "No, but it will be. I'll be there." I hung up, dialed the next. "Sheriff Taylor." "It's Nora Whitlock." He paused. "Ma'am?" "I need you at breakfast. Bring your report pad." "Understood." I hung up and called Ruth. She answered sleepy. "Nora, it's 3 in the morning." "I know." "What happened?" "Just come and bring your heart." "My heart?" "You'll see." I ended the call. The house was silent again. I sat with the pie and the notebook. The air smelled of cinnamon. I looked at the bruise in the mirror one more time. It had darkened. So had I. I whispered, "Tomorrow, justice will sit at my table." The clock struck 3:30. I didn't sleep. I waited. I didn't lie down. Sleep was useless. The oven had cooled, the pie sat on the counter, and the house smelled clean again. The bruise on my cheek had turned dark purple, almost neat, like a stamp. I opened the curtains. The street was empty. Just snow and silence. I poured coffee, sat at the table, and stared at the phone. 3 calls made. No regrets. At 3:00 a.m., the clock struck like a warning. I looked at Harold's photo on the shelf, his eyes calm, his tie crooked. He had been gone 8 years, but his words stayed. "Never argue with noise. Build proof." I whispered, "I'm building it now." I opened his old notebook again. I wrote one more line under last night's entry. "He doesn't know tomorrow isn't forgiveness." The pen left a small dot of ink at the end. I liked the finality of it. I cleaned again, not because the room needed it, but because order steadied my hands. I wiped the table twice, folded the towel, lined up the cups. The same order Harold used when he set the dinner table. By 3:15, the wind outside grew louder. Ethan's door upstairs stayed shut. I could hear his uneven breathing through the vent. I sat still until it evened out into sleep. Then I moved. I opened the pantry and took down flour, sugar, apples. The second pie would be ready by sunrise. The smell of cinnamon covered the whiskey he had spilled. Every slice of apple I cut made the noise I needed. Clean, sharp, final. I didn't cry. When the crust was in the oven, I pulled out the documents Marion had prepared months ago. Papers for property rights, title transfers, and notarized witness statements. I had kept them just in case. People like Ethan always gave you a case eventually. The paper edges felt warm from my hands. I placed them in a folder beside the pie. I took out another folder, Harold's will. I looked at the signature, his name beside mine. Under alternate executor, one empty line. I filled it in, Judge Marion Cole. Then I wrote the date, December 25th. That was the first gift of the morning, clarity. I stacked everything neatly. When the clock hit 3:30, I made tea, not for comfort, but focus. The steam rose, faded, gone in seconds. I liked that. Quick, quiet, clean. I went to the window and looked out. Snow fell slow. The streetlights turned everything silver. Somewhere down the block, a church bell chimed. Harold used to say, "When it's time, you'll know. The sound changes." It had. I turned off the oven, placed the new pie beside the first, and wrote a small note on a napkin. For guests. Then I walked to the living room. The Christmas tree still blinked weakly. I unplugged it. The silence after the click felt heavy, like closing a file. The couch held Ethan's coat, his shoes, his empty wallet. He'd spent every paycheck before it even cleared. I picked up the wallet and opened it. Receipts, bars, gas stations, gambling machines. I placed it on the mantel beside the framed family photo. He'd see both in the morning. At 3:45, I walked upstairs. His door was half open. He was face down on the bed, one shoe still on, snoring. The whiskey bottle stood empty on the nightstand. I stood in the doorway long enough to make sure he was breathing. Then I turned off the hallway light and went back down. The house hummed with the kind of silence that meant control had returned. In the kitchen, I opened the small drawer under the phone. Inside, a clean envelope, a pen, Harold's old ring. I slipped the ring on my finger. It felt heavier than I remembered. I wrote a short letter, plain and direct. "Ethan, I will no longer protect you from consequences. Tomorrow you will see what truth looks like in daylight. Mom." I sealed the envelope and placed it under his cup. The clock hit 4. I sat again, hands folded, the same posture I'd use at breakfast. I practiced the silence until it became natural. Every minute mattered now. At 4:15, headlights passed outside. Marion's car, always early, always precise. She'd wait until sunrise before knocking. She knew me that well. I stood, opened the door, and placed a folded blanket on the chair by the entrance. Guests would need warmth. I checked the coffee pot, filled it again, replaced the filter. The smell helped me stay awake. My cheek ached, but not from pain. Just memory. I touched it once, gently. "You shouldn't have done that," I murmured. Not to him, to myself. For letting it happen. For waiting this long. At 4:30, I walked to Harold's room. Nothing had changed in 8 years. His books, his uniform jacket, his hat on the wall. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at his photo again. "I kept quiet too long," I said, "but not anymore." The wind knocked softly at the window, like approval. I returned to the kitchen and checked the folder one last time. All papers were in order. Deed transfer, police report draft, notarization forms, power of attorney. Everything signed, sealed, dated. It wasn't revenge, it was record-keeping. By 4:45, the second pie cooled. I placed both on the table, one for memory, one for evidence. I washed my hands, changed into Harold's old sweater, and tied my hair back. The bruise still showed. I left it uncovered. Proof mattered. I rehearsed each sentence in my head, short, calm, final. No anger, no tears. "Good morning. Please sit. You'll hear the truth now." Each line felt steady. At 5:00, the sky turned pale. The first light came through the window, reflecting on the papers. I sat again, palms flat on the table. I spoke softly to the empty chair across from me. "This is the last morning you sit above consequence." The sound of his snoring upstairs stopped. Then a shift. A door creaked. Floorboards groaned. He was awake. I took one deep breath and folded the napkin beside the cocoa cup. He'd think it was just breakfast. I whispered, "Let him think that." I placed the notebook beside me, the entry still open, the words neat, controlled. He hit me under the Christmas lights, but I didn't flinch. I underlined the last 4 words. The clock ticked toward 6. I poured cocoa into his cup, steam rising again. One last detail. Harold's photo on the table. I turned it slightly, facing the empty chair. "You should see this," I said quietly. Outside, the snow stopped. The world held still. I heard tires on gravel, Marion again. Then another car, Grant's patrol vehicle. Then Ruth's small sedan. 3 engines, 3 witnesses. I stood, straightened the tablecloth, and checked each cup. No shaking hands. No doubt. The front door knocked once. I opened it. Marion's eyes met mine. "You sure?" "Yes." Grant tipped his hat. "Ma'am." Ruth looked at my face, swallowed hard. "You didn't tell me it was this bad." "It doesn't matter now," I said. "Come in." They stepped inside quietly. No one spoke. The kitchen filled with the sound of boots on tile and the faint ticking of the clock. Marion looked around, then at the papers. "Everything's ready?" "Yes," Grant nodded. "He awake?" "He will be." I gestured to the table. "Sit. Have cocoa. He'll come down soon." Ruth's hands trembled as she reached for the cup. "Are you sure you can do this?" I looked at her. "I already did." The room went still. Upstairs, footsteps. Slow, heavy, uncertain. The stair creaked. I didn't look up. I only said, "Remember, no words until I start." Marion closed her folder. Grant straightened. Ruth folded her hands. The footsteps came closer. At 6:02, Ethan's shadow crossed the hallway. He was rubbing his face, trying to look normal. He didn't see the others at first. He saw only me. He smiled. "Morning, Mom. You're up early." I didn't answer. He reached for the cocoa. "Smells good. Maybe you learned something after all." He sat. His eyes caught movement behind me. Marion, Grant, Ruth. His smile froze. The morning light hit the table. He looked at me confused. "What's this?" I met his eyes, voice steady. "This is morning." He frowned. "What?" "This is where silence ends." He blinked, unsure if he heard right. The clock struck once. I folded my hands, ready. "Sit down, Ethan." The morning light barely touched the curtains when the phone rang for the first time. It wasn't a surprise. People like Marion didn't sleep when duty called. I had called her hours earlier, and now she was checking in. "Judge Cole," she said when I answered. Her tone was even, clipped. "I'm on my way." "Bring your folder," I said. "Already in the car." "Good. Do you want me to notify Grant?" "I already did." She paused for half a breath. "Then I'll see you at dawn." The line clicked off. That was all we ever needed. No questions, no comfort, just function. The second call came a few minutes later. Grant Taylor, sheriff of Buncombe County, didn't waste time on greetings either. "I'm outside the station," he said. "You sure you want this done here at your house?" "Yes." "You understand it's not going to be private after today." "I want the light on it." He exhaled once. "Then I'll come by in 20. Bring the paperwork." "Already in the passenger seat." He hung up. The last call was harder. Ruth never liked early mornings, and she hated conflict, but she always answered when I called. "Nora?" Her voice cracked with sleep. "Yes, it's time." "For what?" "Breakfast." She paused. "What kind of breakfast?" "The kind you don't forget." She sighed. "Tell me what happened." "Not yet." "Nora, please, just come. And bring your calm." She didn't argue. "I'll be there." 3 calls, 3 roles: judge, sheriff, sister, law, authority, blood. That was enough. I placed the receiver down and looked at the table again. Every cup lined up, every napkin folded. The cocoa was cooling, so I poured it out and made a new pot. The sound of boiling water was steady, rhythmic, like breathing. The papers Marion had notarized last month were still on the counter. Title deeds, asset transfers, witness forms. I spread them out one by one. Everything signed and sealed except one final signature. Mine. I took the pen, wrote my name with no pause, and slid the papers back into the folder. The ink dried fast. At 6:30, headlights flashed across the window. The first to arrive. Marion, always first, always precise. She stepped inside without knocking. "You look awake." "I am." "Is he?" "Upstairs." She took off her gloves, folded them neatly, and looked at the bruise on my cheek. "You could have called sooner." "I was waiting for the right time." She nodded once. "It's right now." I poured her coffee. "You remember Harold's rule? Never argue with noise." I nodded. "We build proof." She smiled faintly. "And serve it warm." The second car came soon after. Grant walked in with his hat under his arm, snow on his boots, eyes clear. "Morning, ladies." "Morning," I said. He glanced at Marion. "Everything in order?" "Always." Grant turned to me. "You want me uniform or neutral?" "Neutral, for now." He nodded. "Then we'll do it clean." He took out a small notebook and placed it on the table beside Marion's folder. The two files sat like bookends. At 6:40, the third car, Ruth. She knocked softly, almost apologetic. "I brought muffins," she said, stepping in. I smiled a little. "Of course you did." Her eyes moved to my face. The bruise caught the light. "Nora, don't." She swallowed her words and walked to the table. "What do you need me to do?" "Sit, watch, remember." "Is that all?" "For now." Grant poured himself coffee. "He know they're here?" "Not yet. He's going to lose it." "I'm counting on it." Ruth looked from one of us to the other. Are we pressing charges?" Marion answered before I did. "We're witnessing an admission." Ruth frowned. "You mean—" Marion's tone stayed even. "He'll tell on himself. They always do." I turned to Ruth. "You'll see it." She nodded weakly. Marion pulled out the papers. "Everything's filed. The transfer, the deed, the notarized statements. All you have to do is say the word." "I already did," I said. Grant flipped open his notebook. "For the record, I'll log this as a domestic report initiated voluntarily by the homeowner." "That's fine," he scribbled, his handwriting neat and square. "Time?" 6:48, Marion answered. "Noted." The three of them worked like parts of a clock. No wasted words, no hesitation. Ruth broke the silence. "What if he apologizes?" I looked at her. "Then he'll learn the difference between apology and accountability." She nodded slowly. Outside, snow kept falling, soft and even. Grant looked toward the stairs. "He'll be down soon." "Let him," I said. Marion reached for her folder again. "Once he's seated, I'll confirm the documents. You'll read the line you wrote." I nodded. "He hit me under the Christmas lights, but I didn't flinch." "That one," she said. "You'll let the silence do the rest." Grant checked his watch. "We'll give him 1 minute after he walks in before I speak." "Good," Ruth whispered. "This feels like a court." Marion replied, "It is." I looked at Ruth again. "It's just at the wrong table." The clock ticked, each second clearer than the last. At 6:52, we heard the first sound from upstairs. A door opening, footsteps, the creak of the railing. Ruth flinched. Marion straightened. Grant folded his notebook and slid it into his pocket. Ethan's voice drifted down, half a yawn, half a sigh. "Mom, you up already?" I stayed silent. He came into view, wearing the same shirt from last night, wrinkled, unbothered. He saw the table first, pie, cocoa, 4 cups. Then he saw us. He stopped mid-step. "What's this?" No one answered. He looked at Marion. "You again?" She didn't respond. He turned to Grant. "You brought the sheriff? Why?" I met his eyes. "Sit down, Ethan." He laughed once. "No, you're not serious." Grant spoke evenly. "It's a request, not a choice." Ethan's smile dropped. "You can't threaten me in my own house." "It's your mother's house," Marion said. He looked at her sharply. "What did you say?" You heard me. He turned to me. You told them that? You told them I don't live here? I kept my voice flat. You live here by grace, not by right. He pointed at the paperwork. What's that? Proof, I said. He stared at it, then at me. You're doing this now, on Christmas? Yes. He shook his head, pacing. You've lost it, all of you. Grant's hand rested near his radio. Don't make this harder. Ethan stopped moving. You can't call the law for family arguments. Marion's tone was cool. It stopped being an argument the moment you hit her. He froze. Ruth whispered, Ethan, please. He looked at her, then back at me. You're all against me. I answered, No, we're all awake. The silence after that was long, thick, the kind that filled a room and stayed. Ethan pointed at me again. You think this makes you strong? I didn't blink. It makes me done. He blinked, confused. Done? Done being afraid of my own son. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Marion leaned forward. Mrs. Whitlock, confirm for the record, these are your signatures? Yes. And you understand the documents finalized today? I do. Grant wrote the time again. 6:58. Ruth whispered, What's finalized? Marion answered softly, Ownership transfer. Ethan snapped, Transfer of what? I looked at him. Everything you thought was yours. He laughed, too loud. You can't do that. Marion's tone stayed calm. It's signed and filed. Grant added, and notarized. Ethan's eyes darted between us. You're serious? Yes, I said. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. You can't be this cold. I tried warm, I replied. You didn't listen. He stopped moving, his chest heaving. You'll regret this. No, I said. You will. He slammed his hands on the table, but no one moved. The sound echoed and died. Marion closed her folder. We're done here. Grant nodded once. Understood. Ruth's eyes filled, but she didn't speak. I picked up my cup and took a slow sip. The cocoa was still warm. Ethan stared at me. You planned this? Yes. Since when? Since the first bruise you left? He took a step back, shaking his head. You're not my mother anymore. I looked at him evenly. I still am. I'm just not your shield. The clock struck 7. Grant looked at me. You want to proceed? Yes, I said. Marion stood, holding the folder to her chest. Then by law and by witness, your decision stands. I nodded once. By conscience, too. Ethan looked between us, lost, small for the first time. Mom, please. I didn't answer. Marion turned to him. You hit her. That's the record. Grant added, and it's logged. Ruth whispered, Nora? I looked at her. It's over. The sound of the clock filled the room again, slow, steady, final. No one moved. Then Ethan sank into the chair, face blank. He looked at the cocoa he'd mocked earlier. It had stopped steaming. He said softly, almost to himself, Merry Christmas. I answered, Exactly. The air inside the house felt colder than the snow outside. Ethan sat still, staring at the table, like he could change what he saw by not blinking. Marion's folder sat between us. Grant's pen hovered above his notebook. Ruth's hands trembled around her cup. I stood and started clearing the empty plates. No one moved. Every sound, plate on plate, spoon against glass, was louder than his breathing. Ethan finally spoke. You set me up. I didn't answer. I stacked another plate. He looked at Marion. You're her friend. You can't just... I can, she said. It's filed. He turned to Grant. And you? You think you can just walk in here and... I don't think, Grant said. I record. Ethan's voice cracked. You people are insane. Ruth whispered, Please stop. He turned on her. You too? You're part of this? Ruth couldn't look up. I wiped the table with slow, steady strokes. The red cloth showed a faint stain from last night's cocoa, a dark circle between us. I left it. Some stains should stay visible. Ethan's voice rose. You all think you're heroes? You're destroying a family over a little argument. Marion closed the folder. We're not destroying anything. We're correcting it. He slammed his hand on the table. You can't take what's mine. I looked at him. It was never yours. He froze. The house, the money, the land, all mine. You lived here because I let you. He stared at me like I had spoken another language. You can't just erase me. I set down the towel. I didn't erase you, Ethan. You erased yourself last night. Grant looked up from his notes. You want to see the report? Ethan didn't answer. Grant opened his book. Domestic battery, 9:43 p.m., December 24th. Witness, victim self-reported. Visible mark, right cheek, consistent with an open-hand strike. Stop reading that, Ethan shouted. Marion said quietly, That's your history now. He glared at her. You think this is justice? She answered, This is consequence. I began setting the table again, not for food this time, but for truth. Each item had a place. One plate for evidence, Harold's notebook, one cup for silence, the cocoa that had cooled, one folder for law, the papers Marion brought, one napkin for mercy, Ruth's, folded and untouched. I placed them in order, steady as a ritual. Ethan watched every move. You're enjoying this. No, I said, I'm finishing it. He stood up. You can't keep me here. Grant's tone didn't rise. You're not under arrest, yet. Ethan froze mid-step. Yet? That depends on you. He turned back to me. Tell him to leave. I didn't. He pointed at Marion. You too. Get out. She didn't move. He slammed his fist against the wall. All of you, get out! The picture of Harold shook on the mantel, then steadied. I looked at it. He would tell you to sit. Ethan's laugh came out sharp. Don't talk about Dad. Then stop disgracing his name. You're twisting everything. No, I said. I'm showing it straight. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing fast now. You think paperwork and witnesses make you right? Marion's tone stayed calm. That's what makes it legal. He looked at her like she had slapped him. You people have no idea what you're doing. Ruth finally spoke, soft but clear. She knows exactly what she's doing. Ethan stopped pacing. You stay out of this, Ruth. She didn't. I can't. I watched this happen my whole life. Every year you take something from her. Her time, her peace, her house. Shut up! Grant stood. That's enough. Ethan backed away. You can't order me around. Grant didn't move. I don't have to. The law already did. The clock ticked once. No one breathed. Ethan lowered his voice, trying calm. Let's all relax. It's Christmas morning. We can fix this. Mom, tell them we can fix this. I shook my head. We're past fixing. He looked lost now. Then what do you want? Truth. He frowned. What truth? That you hit me. He swallowed. You know I didn't mean to. I stayed steady. Intention doesn't erase impact. He turned toward Ruth again. You believe this? Ruth didn't look up. I heard it. He rubbed his temples. You people are crazy. Marion stood. Mrs. Whitlock, would you like me to read the statement for the record? Yes. She opened the folder, unfolded the first page, and read. On the night of December 24th, at approximately 9:43 p.m., Ethan Whitlock struck his mother, Nora Whitlock, after a verbal dispute. She did not retaliate. She remained conscious and coherent. She contacted 3 witnesses within 6 hours, all documentation complete. She closed the file. Signed and witnessed. Ethan's voice broke. You turned my family into paperwork. I looked at him. You turned it into evidence. He sank into the chair again, head in his hands. You can't do this to me. I sat across from him. I already did. He looked up. You're cruel. I'm accurate. He wiped his face with his sleeve. You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. There. Happy? Ruth whispered. That's not sorry. He snapped. Shut up. Grant moved closer, calm but firm. You raise your voice again, you'll leave in cuffs. Ethan leaned back. Go ahead. Arrest me. Make your Christmas perfect. Marion said, You're making it easy for him. He glared at her. Don't talk like I'm not here. You weren't last night either. The line hit him harder than the law. He pointed at me again. You'll regret this. I've had regrets, I said. You're not one of them anymore. He slammed his hand down again, but slower this time. You're not my mother. I am. I'm just not your victim. He stared at me, speechless. Grant looked at Marion. We're at time. She nodded. Then let's conclude. Ethan's eyes darted between us. Conclude what? Marion's voice was calm, clear, final. Mrs. Whitlock has legally transferred ownership of this house to Winter Haven Shelter, effective immediately. His jaw dropped. What? The property is no longer yours to claim. He looked at me, wild-eyed. You gave away my inheritance? No, I said. I gave away your weapon. He stood again, but slower now, like the air itself had weight. You're insane. Maybe, I said. But I'm safe. Grant stepped between us. You need to calm down, son. I'm not your son. Good, Grant said. Makes this easier. Ethan stopped moving. His eyes darted to the papers on the table, to Ruth's tearful face, to Marion's steady hands, to me. You planned this. All of you. Marion said. We planned safety. Ethan's voice dropped low. You're dead to me. I answered quietly. Then I'll finally rest. He froze. Ruth started crying softly. Grant didn't move. Marion closed her folder again. The silence came back heavier than before. Ethan stared at the cocoa cup, the one I'd poured for him hours ago. The steam was gone. He pushed it away. What happens now? He asked. Now? I said. Now you face what you made. He laughed once, bitter. You think anyone will care? Marion answered. The law already does. Grant looked at me. You ready for the next step? Yes. Ethan's voice cracked. You can't just erase me from your life like this. I looked at him, calm and final. Watch me. He stood there, chest rising, mouth open, no words left. Ruth whispered, He's shaking. I know, I said. It's the sound of truth. No one spoke after that. The clock struck 8. I gathered the folders, closed them, and stacked them neatly. Marion placed her seal on top. Grant wrote one last line in his notebook. Concluded, 8:02 a.m. Grant closed his notebook and stood up. The sound of his chair scraping the floor was loud. He pulled the handcuffs from his belt. The metal clicked. Ethan Whitlock, Grant said, voice flat. Stand up. Ethan didn't move at first. He looked at me, eyes wide, waiting for me to stop it. Mom? He whispered. I stayed seated. The sheriff spoke to you. Ethan stood up slowly, legs shaking. Grant turned him around. Click, click. The sound of the cuffs locking was the most honest sound heard in this house in years. Let's go, Grant said. Ethan looked back at me over his shoulder one last time. You're letting him take me? I'm letting you go, I said. Grant guided him to the door. Ethan walked with his head down. The door opened, letting in the blinding white of the snow. Then it closed. The house stayed quiet for several minutes after the door closed. I stood near the window, watching the snow fall heavier now, steady and slow. Marion gathered the last of the papers into her folder. It's done. Everything's filed and official. Ruth wiped her eyes. He looked so broken walking out. He needed to, I said. It's the only way he'll ever rebuild. The sound of a car engine drifted in through the cold air. Grant's voice came from the porch. Mrs. Whitlock, I opened the door. The wind hit my face, sharp but clean. Ethan sat in the back of the patrol car, head bowed, hands cuffed in front. Grant stepped closer, his tone calm and even. "He's under custody. We'll process him downtown, charge for domestic assault, and issue the restraining order to follow." "Thank you," I said. He looked at me carefully. "He's quiet now, no resistance." He finally ran out of words. Grant nodded once. "Do you want to say anything before I take him?" I shook my head. "Not today." Grant turned slightly, motioned toward the car. Ethan lifted his head just a little. His eyes met mine through the snow. He didn't speak. Neither did I. He held my gaze for a few seconds, then looked down again. Grant said quietly, "That's the look of a man who finally understands." "Then it's enough," I said. He opened the driver's door. The blue lights reflected off the snow, silent but bright. Ruth came to stand beside me. "Nora? He's still your son." "Yes," I said, "and that's why I let him go properly." Marion joined us on the porch, pulling her coat tighter. "He'll serve time, maybe counseling. The system will take over now." "Good," I said. "It's time someone else handled him." Grant started the car. The tires crunched over the ice as the patrol car pulled away from the house. Ruth whispered, "It's so quiet." "Quiet means peace," I said. We stood there until the car disappeared behind the trees. Only the sound of snow filled the space he left. Marion broke the silence. "You all right?" "I'm steady," I said. "That's close enough." She gave a small smile. "You did what I would have done." Grant's voice carried faintly before the sound faded. "It's time." I watched the snow cover the tracks of the car. It already was. Ruth brushed her sleeve across her eyes. "You think he'll ever forgive you?" "I don't need forgiveness," I said. "I need distance." Marion closed her folder. "The law will take care of that." I nodded slowly. Then the law finally worked for me. We went back inside. The warmth of the house felt different, lighter, cleaner. The table still held the damp cloth from earlier, the brown cocoa stain spreading in the shape of a circle. I didn't wipe it. Marion looked at it and said softly, "Evidence?" "Memory," I said. "Proof that silence can end something loud." She smiled faintly. "You always find the right words." Ruth picked up her purse. "I should go. I think I've had enough justice for one morning." I nodded. "Drive safe." She hugged me once, brief and gentle. "You're stronger than I thought." "No," I said. "Just done pretending." Marion waited by the door. "I'll handle the last of the documents. You'll get the official notice by Monday." "Thank you, Marion." She looked at me a moment longer. "You did what you had to do." "I know," I said. "That's what makes it hard." She gave a slow nod and stepped outside. When the door closed, I was alone. The ticking clock filled the room again, slow and steady. I looked out the window one last time. The snow was falling harder now, covering everything. The patrol car's tracks were already gone. I whispered, "Strength is what's left when love freezes." The air felt still, cold, and clean. I turned off the lights, leaving only the soft glow from the window. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel like a prison. It felt finished. The morning after the arrest was clear and cold. The storm had passed, leaving the streets buried but calm. I walked to the courthouse just after 8. The sky was pale, the kind of white that made everything look new. Marion was already there when I arrived. She sat behind her desk, reading through a folder with her glasses low on her nose. When she saw me, she closed it and stood. "I didn't think you'd come this early. I wanted to finish it myself." She gestured toward a chair. "Sit." I sat. The office was warm, filled with quiet papers and the soft buzz of the heater. Marion placed a single document in front of me. "This is the final transfer form for Winter Haven Shelter. You're signing away full ownership, house, contents, land, no reversal." "I understand." She handed me a pen. "Then sign and date here." I took the pen, looked at the line, and signed without shaking. The ink settled quick. Marion watched my face. "You sure you want to give everything?" "Yes." "Even the furniture?" "All of it. Let someone else use it. I don't need anything that remembers him." She nodded slowly. "It'll help a lot of people, Nora." "That's the point." Grant walked in next, snow still melting on his jacket. "Morning," he said, nodding at both of us. "Morning," Marion replied. I looked at him. "How's the report?" "Filed, notarized, and sealed. He's calm now." "Good." "He asked for you again." I shook my head. "Not today." He didn't push it. "The district attorney will call you next week for a statement." "I'll be there." Grant looked at the paper I had just signed. "You finished it?" "Yes." He nodded. "Then it's done." Marion added, "It's more than done. It's legal. The shelter's representative will sign the acceptance form at noon." I leaned back slightly. "Then by afternoon, the house won't belong to any of us." Grant smiled faintly. "That's poetic." "It's practical." He looked at me carefully. "Do you regret it?" I shook my head. Regret is for people still hoping to change the past. Marion smiled a little. "Then what's this for you?" "Restoration." She nodded once. "That's a good word." Grant looked at his watch. "You want me to deliver the copy to the shelter?" "I'll take it myself," I said. Marion started gathering the rest of the papers. "I'll print 2 certified copies. One for you, one for them." I watched her work. The steady rhythm of the printer filled the silence. When the last sheet slid out, she stamped each with her red seal. The sound was sharp and final. She handed one folder to me. "Keep this for your records." I looked at the embossed seal. It read, "Filed, County of Buncombe, December 26th. Grant picked up the other folder. "I'll drive you to the shelter." "That's not necessary," I said. He shrugged. "Consider it part of my job." I smiled faintly. "All right." Marion gathered her coat. "I'll meet you there. We can make it official." We walked out together into the bright snow. The streets were quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. When we reached the car, Grant opened the passenger door for me. "You ready?" "Yes." As we drove, the courthouse faded behind us, replaced by the white roads and the soft sound of tires over slush. Grant kept his eyes forward. "You know," he said after a minute, "most people don't follow through. They talk about justice, but stop when it gets hard." "I don't stop," I said. He nodded. "No, you don't." We pulled up to the Winter Haven shelter 20 minutes later. A small building stood near the edge of town, the sign covered in frost. A few women were shoveling snow near the steps, their coats bright against the white. Marion's car was already parked outside. She waved when she saw us. We went inside. The director, a woman named Clara, greeted us with warm eyes and tired hands. "Mrs. Whitlock," she said softly, "we heard what you did. Thank you. I just gave back what should have been safe." She led us to her small office. The smell of coffee and laundry soap filled the air. Marion laid the paperwork on the desk. "It's official," she said. "You'll sign here, and the property is yours." Clara read every line carefully before signing. When she finished, she looked at me. "Would you like to see the certificate?" "No," I said. "Just keep it safe." She smiled gently. "We will. You've given more than a house, Mrs. Whitlock. You've given people a way out." I nodded. "Make sure no one there has to wait as long as I did." Marion folded the documents and handed one to Grant. "Deliver to the clerk's office." He nodded and left the room. Clara looked at me again. "You can visit any time. It'll always be open to you." "I'd rather not," I said. "It should start clean." She nodded. "I understand." Marion stood and took my hand. "It's done, Nora. You kept your promise." I looked out the window. Snow was still falling, slow and steady. "Justice isn't revenge," I said quietly. "It's restoration." Marion smiled. "You sound like me." "I learned from you." She squeezed my hand once, then let go. Grant returned, his boots still wet. All filed. It's official as of 10:15. Marion looked at me. There's nothing left for you to do. I know. Grant said softly. Then go live, Mrs. Whitlock. I will. We stepped back outside. The cold air hit again, but it didn't sting this time. I looked at the snow-covered road ahead, the clear tracks behind. The sun finally broke through the clouds, and the light touched the courthouse flag in the distance. It looked like closure. I whispered, if I kept it, it would still smell like his anger. Marion nodded slowly. Then you did the right thing. Grant added, you always did. I turned toward them, my breath white in the air. Maybe now he'll start learning too. Grant looked toward the horizon. If he's smart. Marion closed her folder, the seal catching the sun. Then let's hope the law teaches what love couldn't. We stood there a moment longer, watching the snow fall. The courthouse bell rang once at the top of the hour. Justice had no music, just order. And for the first time in years, that was enough. I came back that afternoon. The storm had stopped, but the snow was deep. The house looked clean, still, almost waiting. I opened the door with my last key. The air was cold inside. All right, I said quietly. One last look. The table was cleared, the red cloth folded, the chairs pushed in. I checked each room, quick, simple, the kitchen, the living room, the hallway. All silent. I saw Harold's photo still on the mantel. I picked it up. You'd say I finally did it, wouldn't you? I placed it in my bag. The couch, the lamp, the window. Done. No slow glances, no tears. In the kitchen, the pie was still there. I left a note beside it, for whoever needs warmth. I looked at the red cloth one last time. The cocoa stain was still there, dark and ugly. I didn't wash it. I pulled the cloth off the table, folded it carefully with the stain inside, and placed it in the trash bin. Clean start, I whispered. The bare wood of the table looked stronger without it. I turned off the light and walked back to the hall. The clock ticked once. I unplugged it. Time's up, I said. Upstairs, I opened Ethan's door. The bed was empty, drawers bare. You're gone, I said softly. Good. In my room, I packed the last few things. Harold's ring, the documents, my mother's Bible, the suitcase zipped shut. I looked once in the mirror. The bruise was fading. The eyes were steady. You survived, I said to myself. I went downstairs again, folded one sheet of paper, and wrote, This house belongs to kindness now. I placed it in the center of the table with the key on top. I looked around one last time. No yelling, no fear, just peace, I said. The floor creaked softly under my boots. I walked to the door, took a breath, and locked it from the outside. The click was final. I stood on the porch, watching the light inside fade. You're someone else's now, I said. Snow started again, slow and steady. I turned toward the road, my suitcase in hand. Halfway down the path, I stopped and looked back once. The note was still visible through the window. I didn't cry, I said. I was done crying years ago. The air was cold, but it felt clean. I walked to the end of the drive. The wind carried my words away. Letting go is the quietest form of justice. The house disappeared behind the snow, and I didn't look back again. 1 month later, I woke up to the sound of the mail truck outside the cabin. The lake was frozen, the world still white. I opened the door. The mailman smiled. Morning, ma'am. Letter for you. From where? He looked at the envelope. State Correctional Facility. I took it. Thank you. He nodded and walked back to his truck. I closed the door, set the envelope on the table, and stared at my name. Mrs. Nora Whitlock. The handwriting was shaky. I sat down and opened it. Mom, it began, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I'm learning. I think about that night every day. I was wrong. I hit you, and I cannot take it back, but you were right. Justice had to happen. I read slowly. He'd written, They told me what you did. You gave the house to a shelter. I hated it at first, but now I get it. You didn't destroy me. You stopped me. You always said silence is a kind of strength. I understand that now. In here, silence is the only thing I have. It's loud, Mom, just like you warned me." The letter ended. "I'm sorry. I'm working on myself. Maybe one day you'll write back. Love, Ethan." I folded it once and said quietly, "You're finally listening." I set it next to my cup of tea. The steam had faded, but it smelled like cinnamon. Outside, the snow moved in slow waves. I looked at the window, then whispered, "Justice can't fix the past, but it can free the future." The sun came through the clouds, lighting the letter on the table. I stood, opened the window a little, and let the cold air in. It touched the paper, moved it slightly, like it wanted to breathe. I said softly, "Forgiveness doesn't mean return. It means I'm free." The air felt clean. I placed the letter in a drawer beside Harold's photo. "Keep it there," I said. "Next Christmas, maybe I'll read it again." The clock ticked once. I poured another cup of tea, sat back down, and looked at the light on the lake. It wasn't quiet like before. It was peaceful. I whispered, "Forgiveness is remembering without bleeding." The bell from the small-town church rang faintly in the distance. I smiled once, small and steady. Outside, the snow glittered under the morning sun. And that was my story. A house that once carried pain now shelters hope. A silence that once meant fear now means peace. If this story reminded you that strength doesn't always shout, sometimes it just walks away, then I'm glad you were here with me. Thank you for spending your time with Grandma Life Stories. Every view, every minute you listen, keeps these stories alive. Stories about family, justice, and quiet courage. If you'd like to hear more, make sure to stay with me for the next one. Until then, take care of yourself. And remember, peace begins when you finally stop explaining yourself to those who never listened. See you in the next story.